You okay? You mad at me or something? Jeez. And she was like,
You have so many programs open. Like my heart is, I'm sweating looking at that.
yeah, 100% CPU. Y'all are stressing looking at it. I got it, Caitlin. That's good. All right, we're ready to go now. We're fine. Hey, here's what I want to talk to you about the education system and where we have kind of let you down. Your generation always had to wear a seatbelt. Now, my uncle never wore a seatbelt, even until the day he died, and he didn't die from a. He said, no government is going to tell me to wear a seatbelt. And that's fine. I do believe that children should wear seatbelts. I do not believe that adults should be forced to wear a seatbelt. I understand that governments need to make money, and they do that by giving tickets if someone didn't have a seatbelt on. Whatever. So you all were forced to wear seatbelts. As children, that's fine. I think today it should be your choice at your age, whether you wear a seatbelt or not. Also, we forced you when you're riding your bicycle to wear a helmet and to wear knee guards and shin guards and all of that. And that's fine too, because I know there have been terrible, terrible accidents on bicycles. I got it. But at the same time, I grew up in a time where I was just glad to have a bicycle. And we didn't wear helmets, and we didn't wear knee pads, and we didn't wear all the safety equipment. So now, anytime that you do something, I mean, when my mama was a baby, she would go to the Piggly Wiggly, get a bag of groceries, smoking a Lucky Strike out the corner of her mouth, and she tossed me in the floor with a bag of groceries. And that's just the way we operated back during the day. Now, I know there's a lot more traffic today, it's more congested. I get all of that. And safety rules are there for a reason. But what we did in doing this is we taught you not to take risk. We taught you to be so conservative that you don't see the risk that you need to take to get ahead. And you were brought up in an environment where your teachers were making you color inside the lines. They made you, oh, wait a minute, why are you painting a horse green? There are no green horses. You need to do a brown, black, white, spotted horse, something of that nature. So they would correct you when you were doing your little art projects. So they never let you be the individual who you desired to be. So what I want you, ladies and gentlemen, to realize is that if you are going to have success, there is a level of risk that you must take. You have to get out of the bed in the morning and go, why am I getting out of bed? What is it that I'm doing? What is it, the risk that I'm taking? So there is no riskless life. Can you imagine having a life where you don't take risk, where you're always insulated from the problems of life? It's kind of a boring life. In 100 years from now, there's a chance some of you won't with the latest technologies, but let's say for most of you, in 100 years, you're all going to be dead. Okay? Now, you can be like Shirley MacLaine, who a lot of you don't even know who that is, and you can think that you're going to come back as a possum or a skunk or a termite. That's fine. I don't necessarily believe that that's the case. You get kind of one shot at this thing. So I want you guys to come out of this class and going, hey, wait a minute. I need to take risk. I need to elevate my game a little bit. Now, does it mean that you're always going to be successful in the risks that you take? Oh, heavens no. Heavens no. You are going to make mistakes. It's inevitable. You are going to fail. And what you need to know is that is fine. It's fine for you to fail. It's fine for you to not do that. I love what my son did. He's infected with the COVID downstairs right out here and talking in the background. Y'all probably do too. But he's a band kid. We would call him a band geek. He's very intelligent. He's very smart. Has no trouble at school. He's a good kid. He doesn't get outside a lot. He plays video games in his room. And so this kid went out for the soccer team. And I'm like, why are you going out for the soccer team? You don't even like athletics. And he's like, I don't know, I thought it'd be fun. And he used to play when he was younger. So it's kind of cool that he is going out for the soccer team and he made it. And we were all excited, hey, we're going to get to go to soccer games and all kinds of things. So we're really kind of excited about that. But what he did, it was kind of cool. He said that if I don't make it, it doesn't bother me. He said, I'm fine. And can you imagine how many people would not go out for soccer team knowing he hadn't played soccer since he was in first grade? He's in 7th grade now. Can you imagine that 6-year gap? He hadn't even touched the soccer ball. He went out for soccer team. So he was fine with the disappointment of not making the team. He said, yeah, hey, I went out for it. And I love that attitude. And that's the attitude that I want to foster in you guys, that you've got to take risks. Now, I've taken risk a couple of times. One time I bought a real estate magazine, and I bought the real estate magazine. You remember when you used to go to the grocery store, you go to a convenience store, and there were these little magazines that you pick up, like the real estate book and all that, and you look at the thing. I bought one of those businesses when everything was going online and digital. All of those businesses with those real estate magazines virtually are out of business now. And I was the genius who invested and bought an existing business because that owner was smarter than me and knew that that business was going out of business. But I thought, oh man, this is going to be awesome. So that went bust. Several years before that, when I was much younger, probably in my 20s, my best friend called me and said, Bobby, we have got to start raising goats. And I said, why? Goats? What do you do with goats? He said, listen, the Cuban people love goat meat. I said, you don't say. And so he said, why don't you invest some money with me? Let's go in and buy some goats. So we bought goats. He put them on his property. There was one problem. It may have been that the Cuban population loved the taste of goat meat, but there were no Cuban communities anywhere near us. Hell, how am I supposed to get the goat down to Cuba when there's an embargo? Well, you can't do that either. I guess I could have got them to Miami, but can you see me in a trailer pulling up in Miami and going, okay, I got a goat. What do you do with it? I had no idea what we were doing. Crazy. But you know what? I learn from my business failures. You will learn from your failures. Now, you have all undoubtedly experienced a failure that made you a better person. Someone share with me a failure that you experienced during your life that made you a better person. I just shared 2 of them. Someone got an experience that you went through. It doesn't have to be a business. It could be a life experience where you said, oh, wait a minute. If I had looked back now, I see why I kind of went through that struggle, because it made me a better person.
I give you one, Bobby.
Yeah, good, Charles.
All right, so I got laid off from Walmart, and they gave me a severance package, and they gave me a bonus. So I get my bonus money, and I decide I'm going to start selling Tide Pods. Like, I'm going to do my own deal. So I get my business set up, and I start shopping around online to find I need some Tide Pods. So I order like 600 units of these Tide Pods. Well, they never sent them to me, but I don't know that, at the time. They scammed me. But, I didn't figure that out till they got to Mexico, and then they need to be COVID tested and all this, and I got to pay bill of lading and all this. So I come off some more money. I'm down about $6,000 on that deal. But I learned, if you're going to start a business like that, you should start with a domestic supplier and then work your way out to the international market. That was the lesson there.
So you never got the Tide Pods at all, right?
No, sir. But my accountant was able to, we were able to write off the loss. I think I got $1,000 back in the next following years. And then I shut down the business.
Hey, perfect sense. But look, here's the thing, Charles. You had the wherewithal to go for something. I like that. Doesn't mean it's always going to be successful. Now, Charles just said, I learned that if you're going to start something like that, to do it kind of domestically in the future. I love that. All right, anyone else got something that they'd like to share? Come on, Caitlin. I know you've experienced something that was a hurdle for you that made you a better person at the end of it.
That's the story of my entire life. So when I was 17 when I graduated high school, and I didn't get into any college. I didn't get into Alabama. I didn't get into UAB. I didn't get into South. I had to go to community college, which is fine. It's fine. But my parents, they also didn't graduate high school, so they weren't really sure how the whole process worked. But instead of letting me go to South after I finished community college, my parents let me go to Le Cordon Bleu. I don't know if any of you know about that. It's one of the
Culinary
famous
school.
scam schools. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got suckered into that with mountains of private loans and then more loans that the school continued to take from me. Let's see, that was in 2007, in 2008. In 2010, they were still taking loans from me from another state, like, that I wasn't even in. So yeah, that's the icing of that cake.
Yeah. But you're a better person because of it. Going through these things
So
didn't kill you, right?
no, I thought it would. I definitely did. But that's kind of why I'm in the boat that I am now, is my focus is kind of, I want to go into high schools and start educating juniors and seniors on what student loans mean and, you know.
Oh, that's excellent. And I want you to do that, right? Make those
I found this
contacts
on
with
the
the
web.
local schools and do that. So that's great. Anyone else got one they want to share?
Yeah, I'll quickly share one.
Hey, you want-
So hello. So when I was in high school, you all know that I was a ballet dancer, and I had three options. I narrowed it down to three schools. I was very picky about my schools. University of Alabama, not University of Alabama, University of Utah, IU Bloomington, and the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. University of Utah, got into the program, did not get much scholarship, so I wasn't paying $40,000 a year. That's just not happening. IU got into the honors college, got rejected from the ballet program. Devastated because that was the one that I wanted. So I ended up going to UNCSA, and then after a year, I got a job and moved to Charlotte and like danced professionally. And while I was on tour, I actually worked with the director of IU, and he came up to me. He was like, I remember you from the audition. What happened? And I was like, you guys rejected me. And then he said, oh, that was stupid of us.
Hmm.
So that was kind of very satisfying, even though I cried because I wanted to go to IU so bad. But to hear the director saying, we made a mistake by rejecting you, and like you are absolutely, flourishing in your career now, that was like, oh yeah.
You kind of walked out of there, your chest held high, your head up. That's great, man. That's great. Great. So also the problem with you not taking risks, I'm glad that you guys take risks, do things, the part of the problem is that in education, we have made education all about grades. And so it's all about grades and it's all about tests. And so unfortunately in our course, some of y'all are emailing me. I had probably 8 of you email me this time and say, Dr. B, I am so sorry. This is late. I don't care. I really don't. I don't care. So you have so much grace in this class. Now, some of you are wanting more structure. Everything is due when? Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. Shannon, if you can't get it by 11:59 and you get it 12:01, what is Dr. B going to do?
He's going to give you a secret. No, he's going to give you grace.
I'm going to give you grace. Everybody gets grace. Life is in the way. I am one of these that knows how it is to go to school when you got 5 kids and, you got life happening. You are fine. So some of you want a drop dead date for everything. So let me give it to you today. So the academic calendar says this: classes in for the full term and spring 2 for the y'all are in full term. Classes end on April the 28th. Now, hear this. Grace ends on April the 30th. Any discussion, anything that you need to make up, any assignment, any exam, any whatever, must be done by April the 30th, which actually is on a Sunday. Okay. Now, if you've not submitted something by May the 1st, it's too late and there's nothing I can do. So April the 30th is the drop dead date for everything. So if you are late on something, that's fine. And I appreciate y'all letting me know, because you're sitting there going, oh man, I probably need to let him know life's in the way. And it doesn't bother me. You can send me that email. That's still fine. But everything's due by April 30th. Any questions on that at all? Because here's what I'm afraid of, that you've been tricked by some professors or some teachers in the years that if you were 1 second late, they dinged you on your grade. I am not that person, because I have been late. I have kids that are sick. Y'all have kids at home. So don't ever think that I am that person. But grace does end at 11:59 on April 30th. There is no further grace. Questions or comments? Okay. So tomorrow I am speaking to a group of seniors at a high school, just like Caitlin says she wants to do, right? So I'm going into apparently it's a literature class, but they've been studying like Dave Ramsey and, how to stay out of debt and all this kind of stuff. So I'm going to get to speak to a high school class tomorrow. And you guys had to watch a video, right, on all the financial information that you need can be placed on a single index card, which I hope you enjoyed. And it seems like most of you did. The only thing most of you disagreed with was the large insurance deductible, and that's fine. You don't have to agree with everything. You don't have to agree with anything that I do. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to assist me and tell me what is the most important thing that you wish high school senior you knew that you were never told, or maybe you were told, but you just didn't pay attention to. Shannon, let's start with you.
Start with me. I would say the first thing that came to mind was
It's
a
downstairs.
long list of things, long list. But I would say the Joneses don't really exist. Like keeping up with the Joneses, they are imaginary folks.
But how do you get a high school kid who is going to be made fun of if they're viewed somewhat as not having the same financial wherewithal as someone else? How do you combat that in high schools? How do you let them know that it's okay not to keep up with the Joneses, even when you're a senior in high school?
I don't know, because high schoolers are still teenagers, and that's like a different breed of mutant. So I don't know how you get any kind of sense across to a teenager. Clearly, I am not going to be going into education.
Okay.
I think you simply ask them, do you want to try to keep up with them, or do you eventually want to be them?
Yeah, to be them, but maybe not be the a-holes that they are, because they can be a-holes, right? Because if they make fun of you because of the clothes that you wear, I mean, I remember back in the day, if we went to school with holes in our blue jeans, you were made fun of. Like, you need to get some blue. Now, hell, there's more holes than there is material in the blue jeans these kids are wearing today.
Well, then maybe you just tell them too, they don't exist, but if they did, they're trying to keep up with themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's more like self-improvement, right? I mean, improve yourself, but don't have to worry about the clothes or the whatever. I mean, it's good to look nice. It's good to smell nice. It's good to, comb your hair. It's good to brush your teeth. It's good to do all these things. But if there's something that money is a hurdle to, maybe tell them, look, you'll be employing these people at some point, right? If you're if you take care of yourself and you self-improve and focus on your self-improvement rather than keeping up with, what everyone else is doing. So Katie, what would be the number one thing, you're in the business. What do you think that the people that you work with, what is the one thing that they need to know now that I could really push into their skull? So Shannon's got us, don't keep up with the Joneses. Let me make a note of that somewhere. Okay, love it. All right, Katie, what you got?
I'm actually talking to a class on Thursday.
Oh, look at
And-
you.
Yeah. And one of the biggest things that I always tell everybody is there's three sources of income in retirement. You've got the government through your Social Security, you have your employer, and then you have yourself. And I tell everybody, and we focus on it in that order. So the government, and then your employer, and then yourself, to the point that sometimes we don't have the full three legs. But yet, if you flip that around, you're probably going to put that in the way that you trust. So I trust myself more than I trust my employer. And I trust my employer oftentimes more than I trust the government. So if your trust is that way, why are your saving habits not aligned with who you trust most?
Okay, good. How do you talk?
And agree with Matt, what he just said. Definitely that I'll be showing them that too.
How do you, compound interest, exactly. I'm glad y'all mentioned that because we need to definitely show them the power of compound interest. So how do you you're speaking to a class, how do you get an 17, 18-year-old and say you need to save for your retirement when they're 18 and retirement may not come for 50, 60 years down the road? How do you get them to focus on that now?
You show them what compounding interest looks like. And how if you start at, when you start working versus if you start 5 years later versus if you start 10 years later, what those differences are and how much money that is. And that amount of money could be your retirement home, or that amount of money could be the car you need in retirement, because they also don't know, some of them hopefully don't realize how much their parents spend on different things, and the car that their parent gave them, how much did they spend and forfeit to give them that car?
Yeah, good. Very good. Okay. Kaylin, what you got?
So currently I work a lot with middle schoolers because my kids are middle school age, but the biggest thing that I see at our school is our families are kind of across all over the place. We have military families, we have some that, we have kids that are in foster homes. So a lot of them, they don't have anybody that can really teach them the basics. Like we got kids that don't know what the different coins represent. Like that's a struggle. But the biggest thing that I had to learn was there is free help out there. You just have to know where to find it, and that's the hard part. So if you think I'm just drowning in debt, I can't afford to go get somebody to, pay to help me do this, they need to know where to go to find that free help rather than the payday that's right next door. They can say, hey, I can help you.
Yeah, very good. That there is help out there, right? And you got to be careful who you trust on help, right? Because
Exactly.
a lot of people are just trying to sell you something.
Yeah, I had, like I mentioned earlier, I had with my student loans, I hired a lawyer several years ago and I paid him and then he ghosted me. So now all of the things that I saw that he was having me do was fill out paperwork that I could have easily just done myself and not had him at all. So
Okay, good. Very good. All right, Juan, what you got?
Before I answer, I think Isabel's hand went up. So
Oh.
if she wanted to go ahead and go, I'll go
Yeah.
after her.
Yeah, Isabel, go ahead.
I just wanted to piggyback off of Caitlin. I used to work at a bank in San Antonio, and one of my customers was a regular, and he had come to me with a problem that he had, and he was like, yeah, I'm just going to go down the street and get one of those payday loans. And I'm like, oh, what do you need that for? And I ended up talking him out of doing that. But our bank offered it's kind of like a $500 loan, basically, that they would upfront you and then you would just have to pay it back pretty much, but there's no interest on it. But yeah, I kind of saved him from that. So like people don't know those type of things, and educating younger folks with that. Had he gone to one of those payday places, he would have been paying them an outrageous amount. So I agree with educating the younger folks.
As much as I love capitalism, I've always said, if you see a payday loan company coming into your neighborhood, the neighborhood is going down. I mean, I love people having businesses and doing all that, but listen, get rid of it. Encourage people, educate people. Don't go there. You know, one of my first jobs out of college, undergraduate school, was at a finance company. And we make little $100 loans. And the payback on $100 loan, listen, people come every day and get $100 loan. They just need $100. You know what the payback was? 3 at 55. That's what we called it. 3 at 55. They would pay back $165 over 3 months on a $100 loan. And we did them day in and day out. I felt so bad about myself being there. So yeah, education is good. Charles got to get back to work. He said, great discussion. Time value of money is what I would have told myself at 18. Yes. So make sure, Katie, when we go speak to these kids, we go through the time value of money and run a situation with them, right? Run a situation with them so that we can have that discussion with them and just show them, show them on a calculator what money will do and how it will work for them. Yeah, Nick.
Yeah. So, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Nick's got his hand up. Go ahead, Nick. Nick or Juwan, either one.
Sounds good. So what I would say is, I'm going to kind of tie them together, but just because you have money, that does not mean you have to spend it. And then leading me into the idea behind opportunity cost. Like if you make the decision to do something with this, what are you potentially giving up? And being able to use that to then make the most educated and the most informed decision to make sure that you're okay with the consequences, whether it's good or whether it's bad. So definitely considering, the options that you have and where you put things.
How many people get paid on Friday and are broke by Monday? A lot. Have you ever noticed somebody that's like that? Man, they're so excited when the paycheck comes in and they're like, man, we're going out tonight. We're going to the Mexicano. And, next thing you know, man, on Monday, they're like, oh, another 2 weeks till payday. Oh my gosh. So yeah, it's a big thing. Right? And so just because you have money doesn't mean you need to spend it. And some people can't hold on to it, y'all. I'm telling you, as soon as it hits their account or hits their hands, it is gone. They will spend that. Yeah, Nick, go ahead.
Kind of similarly, but like a little different. I just remember I grew up in a pretty affluent area, but I have a single mom. And so she does well for herself, but comparatively, like my best friend, one of my best friends growing up, he drove a $250,000 car when we were in high school. But things, I knew him well. And so, we would have, a deeper relationship, but people would kind of like make fun of him and say he was like overly spoiled, and he'd always turn around and say like, this car is a replacement for the time I don't have with my parents. Because I lived next door to this kid for 10 years and I can count on one hand how many times I've seen his dad. And so just to like apply to like the relational side for the kids, like just because they have a nice car doesn't mean they have things that you do. Maybe those kids have time with their families. Maybe they have like more emotional, connection with them. Just because they have nice things doesn't mean they're better off. Just means they have something nice.
Very good. And how tragic that is, right? That the parents trying to, pay their love toward a kid by gifting them a car. Unbelievable. Really sad. Hey, Ed, I know you got something to say. If Ed's listening. Go, Ed. How about Evan? Evan, you listening?
I'm here, Bobby. I'm sorry.
Hey, Ed.
I was fumbling with the button.
Yeah, what would you
Eh.
tell, what should I tell these high schoolers on
Well,
tomorrow?
I love that your class brought up compound interest.
Mhm.
So that to me is explaining it and maybe trying to somehow understand that they do understand the power of compound interest, because virtually everyone in my life that I've explained compound interest to, they're like, oh, you know, like you're working with them trying to get a savings plan going, yada, yada, savings investment plan. And they're like, yeah, I'll do it next year. It's only X thousand. You know, it used to be $2,000 a year for an IRA contribution. Now it's gone up, 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 up over the decades, which is great. But everyone's like, oh, I'll just wait. It's just 2,000. I'm like, wait a minute. It's not the 2,000. It's the one extra year, 30, 35, 40 plus years from now that you're going to have for compounding at what then was an expected 9-10%. You know, long ago, the market used to go up an average of 10, and then people started factoring in 9. So you follow what I'm saying? It's the extra year on the tail end where you're going to earn that 9 or 10% on average. You know, we may have a pullback like we did last year, in which case people have to wait to retire a year or 2 or 3 maybe. But you understand what I'm saying? It's not the year and the 2,000. It's the 1 year way, way, way in the future that they are robbing themselves. So compound interest is huge. I actually remember taking free enterprise class. I took it my junior year, and I took it with a bunch of seniors who are, you know, of course, I hate to say, but largely a bunch of clowns. And I found it, you know, nerdingly interesting. What is insurance? How do you balance a checkbook, which is probably a lost art, and not necessarily needed in the current world, because you can look at your balance and make sure everything looks good in your account. But so many people I knew growing up did not do that. Just a general loose grip on their financial future, a lack of recognition of what they could do and should do for their financial future. So kind of bouncing all over the place a little bit. I think a broad understanding of everything that's about to be placed in front of them. Like, what is auto insurance? Do I need a renter's homeowner, the tenant homeowner policy on the place I'm about to go rent? You know, these are questions that the average person in this country has no clue about, usually at all, during their life. So they're important. Above all, a true understanding of compound interest and how it works for you, just like getting into credit card debt is the reverse. That's like compound interest. It's working against you in a way. And I like that you're showing that sheet,
And
Bobby.
yeah,
That's
this is
a great
this
sheet right there.
yeah, this is the calculator I didn't know was out there, and Ed showed this to me. Now, everybody, so Katie, you copy this link down, because this is the best calculator I have seen as far as compound interest. Look how clean it is. It's just so clean, right? Compound interest. What's your initial investment? How much you putting in a month? Length of time in years? What's your estimated interest rate? I don't put in a variance range. I was just saying, if I could get 8% compounded annually in 40 years, you'll have $332,592. And then this is kind of cool, right? It shows what their contributions are in green, right? So over the course of time, they will have put 49,000 in, but earning 332,000 in total at 8%. Look at this, y'all. This is just whoosh. I mean, the rocket
And
is
that
taking
also
off.
shows you in very observable fashion one extra year and what it can do for you. Bobby, if you go up to that little section, the variance section, I think it lets you do like a plus or minus 2%. So I usually do a 10%, and then it puts it in at 8, 10, and 12 on that graph.
So if I put 2 Ed in, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, let me calculate with a 2.
And I'm looking at this on my phone, so I hope I'm seeing it correctly.
Okay.
Okay, you see what the huge difference in interest rate earned would make, as well as the time difference. You know, the more the average rate is, the more that extra 1 year is going to make a difference. But even in the most, you know, low end expectations of 8%, if you go out to year, well, I guess 38, I guess 39 to 40, I don't know what that difference is, but it's probably $10,000 or $12,000. It's probably roughly 10%. Oh, I see. Yours did 6, 8, and 10%. Okay. I don't know why I did that, but
So it did 2% like either way, right? So if I was saying 8% is what I'm gonna get,
oh,
so
I'm
it did a
sorry. Yeah.
variance
Okay.
below 6% and then variance
Okay.
above 10%. So it makes a big
Mhm.
difference, right? The interest rate that
Mhm.
you can get.
Yeah.
So this is fabulous. So this is what we want to put up on their screen at school, right? We want to say, hey, let's run some numbers, y'all. You want to be a
I
millionaire?
mean,
Here's
yeah,
here's how you do it.
at school, all your financial planners, I'm in my 60s. This is about the best, easiest thing that I've ever seen. And shockingly, it's put out by the government. So, it's an amazing tool. It's something you can do your calculations in advance and do like a screenshot and save it as a PDF and have your little presentation ready. Or, I'm sure your students are more sophisticated than that as well, but it's a tip. As well as those who are doing the financial planning, this is something you can just have up on your laptop when you're going to meet someone and fiddle with the numbers like on demand, how many years, various interest rates. It's just so powerful. And the more people, the system is not set up for us to understand this. The system is not. The system wants us to make every misstep that we can so that we somewhat become captives of the system itself. Being in debt, which I've heard you preach about here and elsewhere, is one of those ills that the system almost navigates us into before we understand what we're getting into. And this compound interest thing, if you could teach 18 and 19-year-olds this, and they could start saving even $200 or $300 a year and get the mindset of what is a good use of their money and what is not, and that they're actually, here's another concept that I love personally. If you can get people to look into the future at themselves, like if you take an 18 or a 25-year-old, and I know it's not easy because at that age, you guys are like Superman or Superwoman. But if you can get your mindset that the future me, what is the future me going to say about this decision that I'm making now? In other words, would the future me at age 65 tell the current me at age 23, go ahead and start saving because it's never too soon? And that type of mindset where you're almost looking at a situation and trying to put yourself into the future and advise yourself in the past. I find that a good one for clients as well. And again, Bobby, it goes into what you're saying. Don't buy the new car, buy the used car if that's what you can afford, yada, yada. It's efficiently using your money now to enable you have more, the future you to have more money in the future, more security in the future.
Mm-hmm. Look at this, y'all. This is really good too, right? Savings calculator. So say they want to save up for a down payment on a house and they got $1,000 and they got 10 years to grow and they think that's the interest rate they can get is 10% compounded annually. It'll tell you how much money you have to put away, right, to get that. So say you wanted to do this in 5 years, what would you have to put away? So let's go years to grow. We want to buy a house in 5 years. What do we think we could do? All right, you got to put $251 in a penny away every month for the next 5 years to get your $20,000 in 5 years. This is a cool calculator, right? So I hope you guys will use this. Anyone else have anything? I was calling on Evan a while ago. Evan, you got a piece of advice for anybody? For the high school students tomorrow?
I guess going kind of off of what Ed and a few other people have touched on with compounding interest, the most important thing I would say people can do is just start. I can't tell you over the years how many people I've talked to about, preparing for retirement and finance, whether it be clients, family, friends. And I would say 90% of the people that end up kind of walking away from those discussions and not doing anything are the kind of people that say, oh, well, I don't have the money right now, or, oh, I'll get it next year. They have those pretty cookie cutter excuses of, I'll start later, essentially. And what they don't realize is that by starting a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years later, not only are they significantly less likely to actually act on that, they're also going to be in a far worse position when it comes time to retire. So I think the biggest piece of advice I would give to people would just be to start. And it's going to be hard at first, and it's going to be a weird mindset shift. It's going to be, I remember for me the first $10,000 or $20,000, it was almost bizarre seeing that much money and knowing what you could do with it. But eventually you get to this point where your mindset kind of shifts, and you no longer look at it as what you could do with it today, but what it can do for you tomorrow. And once you kind of get over that hurdle, it's usually pretty smooth sailing from there. I think it's pretty difficult to get people to shift their mindset back to that spending mindset. But in order to get there, they just have to start today. So I think that's what I'd say.
It's incredibly fun to pay for a big expense with cash. I don't know, it's just great. I mean, I'm having to have a $4,800 transmission put into my car. And it's just so good when you go, okay, $4,800. Man, I hate that. But then you write the check. The check's not going to bounce. It's incredibly liberating to be able to have cash to spend on such expenditures. I am curious, has anybody in this class, you're reading The Simple Path to Wealth, and we're going to talk about that more in our Thursday class. You've read everything you need to know about money on an index card, about how simple it is. It's just you got to start. Have any of you made any changes to your investments, to your allocations, to anything since we have started the course that you would be willing to share?
Hey, Bobby, real quick.
Yeah.
Sharon has been listening to Sharon, who works here with me. She said her input on what would she tell a high schooler is to take a look at your parents' life now and make the decision of whether you want to be in the same boat that they're in or you want to change it.
Oh, wow.
You're getting a round of applause, Sharon.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And so I would think that most people would say, hey, my parents, they kind of struggle, or at least in our area anyway.
I
Yeah, go ahead,
started to custodial accounts for my kids. It's their high school graduation, like either take a trip somewhere, like get out of the country kind of thing, or they can use it for, I don't know, whatever they need. But that's kind of the same thing with the compounding interest, is just a little bit every week. And hopefully, maybe that's $2,000 less that I'll have to spend for their trip.
That's nice. And Kaylin, remember though, I'm sure you're where, and you don't have to admit or not admit, y'all, it is better to take care of yourself and your financial needs first before you take care of your children. Let me say that one more time. It is better to take care of you and your financial needs first before you take care of your children. Because if you don't, you're going to be living with them when you can't take care of yourself, and their life's going to be a living hell. When your baby's having to wipe your butt every day, that ain't good. When you're having to live in them and they're having to take off work or do whatever, you can easily become a financial burden to your parents. So take care of yourself and your retirement needs first, your insurance needs first, then do your children. So Kayla, I'm not saying that you didn't. I'm just saying, look after you first. Mama got to be taken care of first before I take care of the babies. Anyone disagree with me on that? It's fine if you do. Yeah, Katie, you've seen it before, haven't you?
We do the same, Kaylin. We've got accounts for our boys, and we use it also to train them that when the money comes in for birthday parties, it goes to the account. Like my son comes up, he says, put this in my account and do what you need to, Mom. He's 6. But I do see so many times where people will call and say, hey, my daughter needs to do this and she needs to do this. And they give me their sad sob story. And I say, do you understand the impact of what this is going to do to you? And I get down to the point where I say, I hope she has an extra room in her house for you if you're going to buy her house.
Yeah.
And in a way, I don't care if I lose a client over that because I'm giving them advice. They're paying me to give them advice.
And we think so much that, oh, that's not the way you should be as a parent. We should always put our kids first. No, because you're going to hurt your kids in the long run if you're not taking care of mom and dad first. The parents got to be
sandwich
taken care of.
them- You sandwich them when they're having the expense of the kids. I mean, especially now that we're having children later, now we've got this expense of our kids when our parents also need to be, they're kind of at a bad spot if they haven't taken care of themselves. So now you've got a double drain on each side.
Yeah, very good.
I tell my
So,
kids all the time, I'm like, you've got 6 years left with me. That's my job. My time to teach you to adults. Once you turn 18, you're out. I'm done.
your job is done, but it never really is done. You'll always be a resource for them, Kaylin. You know that. But I get it. My daughter's 18 now, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to kick her out. And I'll go, I don't think she's ready. I don't think she's ready. So little birdie's I gotta kick little birdie out of the nest at some point. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
But- Yeah. Hey, Juan.
I was just gonna contribute to the conversation too,
Sure.
but I know we're at time, but I was just gonna say, I have allowed myself to let my portfolios, plural, be a little bit more aggressive. Because realizing that I'm only 26 and I have time, and that's okay because all my other needs are taken care of. As well as not only have more investment conversations and retirement conversations with my husband, and how we're allocating all the things, but also I've been helping my parents to get their financial lives in order. So taking the information that not only I've learned from class and my job and the book, to be able to make it all digestible for them. And so for Christmas this year, for example, and recently I've helped them all set up brokerage accounts because they are
Oh,
good on every other
wonderful.
front.
Wonderful. Doesn't it feel good that you're helping people and you're not complicating it, right? Remember in the
Mhm.
syllabus, if you can't explain it to your mama, then you're complicating it. It's got to be simple. Here's what we're doing. It's really,
Is-
really simple.
As long as mama got her earring aid turned up.
And she's watching The Price is Right during the day, The Young and the Restless, and then she's got Family. What is it on at night? She's got what is it? Wheel of Fortune. You know she's watching Wheel of Fortune. We know how Mama is. All right, so the big thing, I'll let y'all go. The big thing that I'm going to talk to them tomorrow is this: live on 70. Remember our discussion? If you make $100, live on 70. Save, invest, and contribute, give away a little bit of the other. Live on 70. That's the problem that we've got in this country. If we could just take that nationally, live on 70. 70%. You make 100, live on 70. Oh, I can't do that, Bobby. I don't have enough money. Then you need your butt a second job. Or you need to decrease your expenses. It's really that simple. Okay? All right. Any other questions or comments before I let you guys go? Oh, wait a minute. Does everybody have time to hear the song? I got it up. Or y'all got to go? Let me stop the recording.